What is up, ninjas? Welcome to part 2 of the PPC collaboration with Jungle Scout and That Lifestyle Ninja. Today, we are going to go over Greg's shoulder and watch him optimize the PPC campaigns that we created on the Jungle Scout channel last week. So if you haven't checked out part 1, make sure you head over to the Jungle Scout YouTube channel to see us create a PPC campaign from scratch. So Greg, welcome. We are very excited to watch you optimize these campaigns.
Kevin, thank you very much for having me. I don't want to waste any time, so let's dive right in. So if you guys saw part 1, which I encourage you to watch, Kevin set up these campaigns. They've been running for 8 days now, and we've starting to get some data, which is really good. So I'm inside my Seller Central account. I'm going to go under Advertising, Campaign Manager, and this is where all of the PPC campaigns live. And you can see we have a number of them down here. Real quick, I'm just going to search to make sure we're only looking at the ones that we set up last week or 8 days ago. And as you can see, we starting to have some good data here. In the date range column, I do have October 11th through the 19th. Those are the dates worth of data that we have so far. And just as a reminder, it says it somewhere in here. I think it's here, but the sales can take up to, and normally do take up to 48 hours to show. So right now I have the date selected as yesterday, but this is really, they're really probably not showing sales unless they happened on the 18th, October 18th. Okay. So
that's a really important point. Let me just reiterate for everyone watching, right? Because a lot of times my students will come to me and they'll say, hey, you know, I've spent $100, $500 on PPC, but I have 0 sales, right? And so it's very important what Greg just said. I want to reiterate it. It does take up to 48 hours for sales data to actually propagate and show in your PPC dashboard. So, you know, if you are seeing some spend and you're not seeing sales and you've only waited like 2 days, give yourself a little bit more time because it's a really important point to show that it doesn't actually show up for up to 48 hours.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Real quick, let me just walk you through what we're looking at here, even though I know a number of you guys already know it. Obviously, the campaign names that we set up, they're all running. These are manual and automatic campaigns. We had a pretty aggressive daily budget because we knew we wanted to record this video 8 days later, and we wanted to make sure there was plenty of impressions so we could get some good data so you could see how we optimize it. You don't have to set your budgets this high. But the impressions, this is how many times these ads were shown on results of pages, so almost 250,000 times, which is a lot. This is how many times people clicked on them, which in return, that means how much we get billed. Of course, our spend, the CTR is the click-through ratio, the CPC, that's the cost per click. So each time someone clicks on an ad in that, like in this campaign, we got billed 68 cents. How many orders we've had from it. So 120 orders from PPC in only 8 days, which is pretty dang good. And of course, how many sales in our overall ACoS. The ACoS is the advertising cost of sale. So just to make numbers easy here, if my product was selling for $10, an ACoS of 31.7% would be $3.17. So 31% of that, the revenue is what the advertisement cost me. So advertising cost of sales, what that stands for.
ACoS, just like kind of a simple way that I like to remember it is basically, let's say you have a product and you have a 50% profit margin, right? So if your ACoS is 50%, that means that you're using 100% of your profit margin to make that sale on PPC, right? So you want your ACoS generally to be a little bit lower or preferably a lot lower than your profit margin.
Yeah, and real quick, let's just talk about how to figure out your break-even ACoS, all right? Let me zoom in and make sure you guys can see this well. But what I'm talking about here is at what point does the ACoS, is it profitable for us, and what point are we losing money on each PPC sale from it, okay? So my item right now is selling for $21.95, all right? The landed cost for this product into Amazon is $4.40. And the Amazon fees for this product, it's pretty big, it's pretty heavy. I know I looked it up before this, are $10.90, okay? So this means my profit is my revenue minus my landed costs minus my Amazon fees before PPC. Every time I sell one of these products on Amazon, I make $6.65, okay? So to figure out our break-even ACoS, what we can do is we can divide our profit pre-PPC divided by our revenue. And this gives us a percentile here. So just, that's right. You guys, or I'll do this. Let me do times 100% to make sure that this is a little bit easier for you guys. So our break-even ACoS for this particular product is 30%. All right, Kevin, does that make sense how you figure this out?
It does make sense. Could you just maybe explain a little bit deeper how you get that 4.4? What does landed cost mean for people who are watching and they don't necessarily know what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. The cost to manufacture my product is about $3, okay? So I pay the factory about $3 for my particular product. That being said, that's just what it costs to get it made. I also need to get it to Amazon's distribution center. So for this last shipment, I think I shipped about 2,000 units. I paid the factory like $3, but then per unit, it cost me about $1.40 to get my product from the factory to Amazon's distribution center. So it cost me $4.40 to get one of these units to Amazon's distribution center. A lot of people say like, well, you're forgetting about photos or anything else. And it's like, well, for me personally, how I like to think about it, it's like I've sold 15 or 20,000 of these now. If you're factoring in the cost of what my photos for $200 cost me at the very beginning, we're talking about probably a fraction of a penny now. So I don't even worry about that. But if it makes you feel better, feel free to factor in a little bit of those costs into the landed cost if you'd like.
Right. And then how are you getting those Amazon fees too? Do you use the FBA fee calculator, or what's your method for finding that number?
You can use the Amazon FBA fee calculator. It has been known to be a little bit unreliable. You can also get Amazon fees from the Jungle Scout extension, of course, or you can go into the into inventory. You can go to manage FBA inventory, and right there it shows you what the fees are for your particular product. Okay, so that would be the pick, pack, ship with the commission. And that would not include any long-term storage fees if, they ended up sitting around for a while. But for this method, I think, I don't want to overcomplicate it. And this is how I always do it. So I think as far as figuring out your break-even ACoS, since it's a little bit of just like a rough number that you're looking for anyway, I think this gets you close enough.
Definitely.
All right. So we know our break-even ACoS at this point is 30%. So let's go back real quick and look at our campaigns. So real quick, I'm looking at this top one. Let me zoom in a little bit. I know it's sometimes hard for some of you guys to see. All right, I guess that cut it off. That's all right. So the ACoS for this top one is 48.4%. All right, so if they cost $100, right, then we can do this math really easily. That means if it was $100, it would have cost me $48 worth of PPC clicks to make one sale. All right. Same thing if we go back with my profit margins for my jungle sticks. At that point, it would be, let's just say $30 worth of profit. So I would have lost $18 on that particular sale. All right.
Right.
The one below it, this is 21.5%, which is below my break-even ACoS of 30%. So I made a little bit of money on each of these, even after paying for the clicks. What we're going to do a little bit later on this episode, we're going to optimize these campaigns so that we can get all of our ACoS levels down below or at my break-even point. And we'll talk a little bit about the strategy of what you want to do that, but we'll do that a little bit later because, yeah, sometimes it is worth it to spend right at the break-even or even a little bit higher because Amazon rewards higher sales velocity with higher organic search rankings. So it may be worth it to lose a little bit of money on PPC sales in return for higher organic rankings. But before we dig into that too much deeper, I want to download something called the search term report for you guys, show you how to use it and how it's super valuable for us. So to get there, the easiest way that I always do is just click on add reports. It's in the top right-hand side of this particular screen. There's on the top line right here, there's a number of different reports. By default, it shows up the campaign performance report, but I'm going to click over to the search term report. And then if you don't have them scheduled automatically, which you can do with this edit button, you'll have to request the report. And it takes about like 10 minutes for Amazon to generate this report. So you guys don't have to wait. I went ahead and downloaded this right before we started. And what we're going to do, I'm going to open up, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. Oops. We're going to go ahead and delete all this. We can remember that it's 30%. And in order to manipulate this spreadsheet, or it's not even a spreadsheet, this file that I downloaded from Amazon, I'm going to use Google Docs. So if you guys aren't familiar, or Google Sheets, it's just like Microsoft Excel. It's totally free though, so I prefer to use it because everyone can access it. And actually, I like it a little bit better. So just Google for Google Sheets if you haven't used it before, and you can pull it up. Or of course, you can recreate this in Excel as well. So the search term report that you download from Amazon is a TXT file, which isn't very user-friendly. However, Google Docs does a good job about turning the, we'll call them columns in the TXT file, the text file, into a spreadsheet format, which is much easier to manipulate. So I'm going to click on File. I'm going to go to Import. I'm going to click on Upload on the top, select a file from my computer, and select the search term report that you just downloaded. It will take a second to upload it. I usually select the replace current sheet, and under separator character, just leave default for detect automatically.
And one little note, guys, is some people I've found that my students and myself included actually, it's sometimes you can't download the search term report using the Google Chrome browser. So if you are getting errors, I get errors all the time trying to download the search term report, and it's the most important report Amazon gives you by far, in my opinion, for your whole business, right? If you are getting errors in the Google Chrome browser, try Safari or Firefox. Sometimes I have to use a different browser to download it. So make sure that you're not, letting that error stop you, because you definitely need to be using this report to, make your business more profitable.
And I'm going to walk you through all the columns in this report, but before we do that, I just want to make it a little bit easier to manipulate. So as you can see, Google Sheets did a good job of splitting up this text file into correct columns. However, before we go any further, I'm just going to click on row 1. I'm going to click on the data dropdown, and I'm going to select filter. If you've never used the filter function before in Google Sheets or Excel, I would highly recommend it. It makes it much easier to work with these spreadsheets, because now what we can do is we can click on this little funnel looking button, and we can create different filters in here. So we can filter by a certain condition, or an easier way to do it is just to go through here and check or uncheck boxes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to uncheck all the boxes that are for my other products, because today I just want to focus on the Jungle Sticks one. So, all right, I think, and I just want to use the ones that Kevin set up last week. I don't want to use any of my old campaigns, just to make sure that, yeah, this is all very relevant information. Okay. So before, I had a whole bunch more rows. After doing that filter, Google Sheets got rid of, all those items that I unselected. So now I'm just looking at the campaigns that Kevin set up last week. Okay. So obviously campaign names, easy to figure out. The ad group name, that's what you set. So again, it's easy. Something that is very important, and the reason that this is so valuable, is columns C and D. They're amazing. So column C, this is actually what the customer typed in to the search field to find your particular ad, okay? This is the only place in Amazon that you can find this information. And as you can imagine, that's very valuable for us, because that means what is the actual, we think we know what our product should be called, but what do customers actually search for to end up finding this particular product? And then what's even more important, what do customers search for, find my ad, and then purchase, okay? I'll go into that a little bit more shortly. For keyword, I'm gonna do one more thing. I'm gonna freeze this top row to make sure you guys know what column we're looking at. I'm gonna skip the asterisk just for a second. So remember that there's different match types. We talked about this a little bit in part 1 of this series, but I'm just going to go over it again. With a phrase match type, or let me start with broad. With a broad match type, we select the keyword, okay? And then it doesn't matter if people search for words before that keyword, in the middle of that keyword, or after that keyword, the keyword or that specific keyword can still be shown to the customer. With a phrase match type, you can't put keywords in the middle of the phrase. So with this one, bamboo sticks, I couldn't do bamboo marshmallow sticks, if so that this particular match type wouldn't be shown. With a phrase, you can only add keywords before the phrase or after the phrase. And with an exact match type, it has to be the exact keywords that you search for. With all of these, Amazon kind of corrects or shows them for like plurals. So right here, I have bamboo sticks for my keyword, but if someone just searched for bamboo stick, they could still be shown this, or marshmallow bamboo stick. Since this one's phrase match, they would still show that. And then they're also supposed to correct for misspellings, which it seems like they do a decent job at, but not perfect. Kevin, before we go any further, does all that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Do you want to touch on what the little asterisk means for people that maybe don't know?
Absolutely. So with these, you know, when I have a keyword in here, it's pretty clear, right? I bid for bamboo sticks with a phrase match type. And this, what the customer searched for was bamboo sticks, 3 feet. And that keyword was shown to them because there was words after a phrase match and the keyword that I searched for. Well, what's the deal with this? This is an asterisk. There's no keyword here. What this is we set up an automatic campaign, okay? With automatic campaigns, you don't bid for keywords. Instead, it's very simple to set up, as we kind of showed last week. All you do, you click a few buttons, and Amazon at that point, they decide what search terms they think are relevant for your listing, and they show those to the customer, okay? So since we don't bid on keywords, there's nothing for Amazon to show here. But instead, what we can still get valuable information from this, because this is like what Amazon thinks our product is, okay? They're generally pretty good, but some might not be as relevant. Like they showed it for Boy Scouts. It's like, well, that might be relevant. Boy Scouts probably hang out by fires, like roasting it or whatever. Like dog towels, that would be something that's definitely not relevant for my product. So that would be one area that Amazon kind of failed. So,
yeah, and we can. It's also important to note that you can see these asterisks for manual phrase as well, right? Because it's important to kind of understand the difference between columns C and D. Because for example, like in row 1916, right? Bamboo sticks versus bamboo stick garden. So like we might make a campaign and we're going to advertise for bamboo sticks because that's very obvious that it's related to our specific keyword, or excuse me, our specific product. But I, at least not in a million years, would I type in bamboo stick garden or bamboo sticks artificial, the next one, into my PPC campaigns. And so what column C gives us is it gives us these new, interesting, long tail phrases that we pretty much never would have been able to come up with ourselves, because people are searching millions of different things every single second of every single day on Amazon. And so it gives us new material and new words to create further PPC campaigns. And Greg's going to talk about how we actually differentiate which of those customer search terms, those exact things that somebody out there is typing into Amazon, which of those are going to be profitable for us, right? Because those are keywords that we haven't yet identified.
All right. So we have all this information in here now, right? Let's talk real quick before we start a new campaign with those customer search terms. Let me just go over this. I think you guys understand it, but impressions, remember, that's how many times that ad was shown. Clicks, how many times the customer clicked on it. CTR is the click-through ratio. So that's, it was shown 17 times. It got 1 click. So that's a click-through ratio of 5.88%. This is how much money we spent. The average cost per click. So each time someone clicked on it, if it was clicked on a bunch of times, that's what your average was. The ACOS, remember again, advertising cost of sale. So if it's 0%, that's because people clicked on your ad, so you were charged for it, but you haven't actually had any sales from it. For example, this one, it was clicked on 9 times. I spent $6.30, and I did have 1 sale, as you can see right here in column O, for the $22 amount. Yeah, I think I think that's kind of all you guys should need to know for this. The same SKU or other SKU, some of these other columns over here, that would be like if you have other variations of the product, or I don't think that works for other products you sell in your storefront. Is that right, Kevin? It has to be other variations.
That's
I'm actually
correct.
Not sure on that. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's correct. And, guys, I just want to kind of acknowledge really quick that this report can kind of look overwhelming. Greg and I have been doing this for a long time. We're very comfortable in here. And I want you guys to make sure that you don't get overwhelmed with this, because this report is the single most, true source of data that you can get for your products. And it's not only important for PPC, it actually has some other uses. So Greg, I don't know if you want to talk about, how do you use the search term report to maybe like make changes in your title, or to, change your keywords in your backend, or do you only use it for PPC, or are you using it for other things as well?
No, it's really good for other things as well. So let's talk about some ways that we can use it for other things. And in this report, there's a good amount of data. If I would have used all of our PPC history, we would have tons and tons of data that this could even be better, but we want to make this as realistic as possible for you guys. So we're just using this one that's only a few days old. Something that I will say, so if we have a whole bunch of, or if we've had a number of sales, some good things that you can filter by would be, so show me keywords that actually resulted in a sale. All right. So what I can do is I can remove all of the lines that have not had a sale associated with that keyword. Okay. So now I see about 100 or 50 or 100 lines or whatever that are customer search terms that resulted in a sale. Okay. What I could do next, I could sort by the ACOS. Let's do low to high. And what this is now showing me is search terms that convert very well and very inexpensively. So you can see, from especially some of these that have multiple orders. So like this one right here, this search term, wooden skewers 12-inch, even though my product's 36 inches long, my ACOS is only 5%, and I've gotten 2 sales from that, which is very good. Let's look for some of these other ones that have more than one sale.
I think that's an important point. So Greg just mentioned that his product is 36 inches, but one of his, most profitable keywords with multiple clicks, multiple orders was, wooden sticks 12 inches, right? And so people often tell me, Kevin, ask me, how do I find, these more profitable keywords, these long tail keywords that are going to convert for a very cheap price, right? So wooden sticks, I guarantee, would be more expensive than wooden sticks 12-inch. And just because your product isn't 12 inches, people don't always know exactly what they're looking for and what they want, right? They might search wooden sticks 12 inches, see Greg's listing, see that it's, such high quality and that it has all of these good reviews, and they might decide that they actually would prefer a 36-inch, right? So actually putting into your keywords all of the different sizes and shapes, large, small, 12 inches, right? Set of 5, set of 6, whatever like the little quantifiers might be, actually can give you some of those really super low ACOS sales.
Cool. That's a good point. So what I could do now is, I could look for all customer search terms that the ACOS is less than my break-even ACOS. So remember, my break-even ACOS is at about 30%. Maybe I'll go ahead and just include some of these at 32 and 33%. So it's everything, at this line or above. And now what I could do is I could take all of these search terms. All right. So I have all these search terms. Let me just open another sheet. I have all these search terms that I could then at that point put into another PPC campaign. And I know all these convert well. So what I would likely do is do exact match, or maybe exact match and phrase match, and then bid more aggressively on those. Before I put them in there, though, let's talk about a few of like the funny things in here. So right here, I see this. It's very obvious to me right away that this is an ASIN, but if this is the first time you're looking at it, you're probably gonna wonder what the heck is that? So this is the ASIN of someone else's product. So real quick, I'm just going to show you what this means. Is what this ASIN in the search term report means is that somebody was on this listing, okay, and my product, my jungle sticks, showed up under this section, sponsored products related to this item. So they then clicked on that and they landed on my product. And for this particular example, they ended up purchasing my product. Okay. So, unfortunately we can't actually bid on those. And I think it would just give you an error. If you try to put them in there, so you can clean those out or you can just leave them in. Sometimes I see these in people's search term reports, but I don't think anyone actually gets impressions for them. Have you, Kevin?
So you're just not going to get impressions for them because no one's actually searching for an ASIN. Like no one's typing in B003, whatever, right? You're just, the reason that it's showing up is exactly the reason that Greg just described.
Right. So another cool way that you can do this real quick. I can just do sort from A to Z, and you can look. All right, so all those are gone. All right.
And also maybe one point that might be worth mentioning is if you look at row 4 and row 10, and I'm actually curious to see your opinion here. Sometimes I see these characters, and I think that it's if you use a special character like an apostrophe or something, like if somebody's searching 36 by 34 using an apostrophe, then it's throwing back that that ampersand pound symbols. And so I think when I'm actually creating these, sometimes I'll go through and actually like replace that with like a 36 by 34 or like X or something like that.
Yeah, you can actually I just like Googled this and you can find these. So that one's actually ampersand, and 34. So it was a quotation mark.
Right. And that's really cool. So I'm learning from Greg right now. So I've never actually known exactly how to figure that out, but you can kind of tell what people are searching and then just replace, what it's converting to HTML into the actual character that they used.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have to do this or not, but it's probably smart enough you could do both. But yeah, that's all it is what they were searching for is really the quotation mark. So right. I don't think there's anything else funny in here. I think these are all good. So let's go ahead and take these and create a new campaign from them. So I'm just going to go back into Seller Central, go into the campaign manager, create a new campaign.
And again, just to reiterate, the reason that we're using these words, right, is these are the exact thing that customers are actually typing in to find our ads and to find our products. So we're going to make a new campaign now based on what we've proven customers are searching into the Amazon search bar and then buying our products from.
All right. So I just named it correctly. Let me just select this particular product. We're going to click on provide your own keywords. All right. I'm going to paste in all those keywords. I like to do both exact match and phrase match. I don't know what you generally do, Kevin.
Yeah, for these campaigns, I actually do generate both phrase and exact match. And I actually generally turn on bid plus. For these, just because they're kind of proven, we've proven that these phrases are actually converting for our keywords. So, whether or not you want to try bid plus is up to you, but generally I do turn bid plus on for these keywords.
All right, cool. So I'm going to add those in phrase and exact. Really best practice would be 2 different ad groups, one that's phrase and one that's exact. But that's all right for this one. I'm going to save it and finish it. That's right. It should just remove that one keyword name.
Right.
Let's just see. All right. Yep. So now this is winning. And remember, it's going to take a few days before we get any information from this, how it's going. But yeah, that's how you would set up a new campaign based off winners you found from the search term report. So real quick, let me just go back in there because I think some people, they're going to be following along with this and they're going to say, be like a new product. It's not moving very quickly. After a week or after 2 weeks, they don't necessarily have many sales yet from their particular product. So let me just real quick talk about some other indicators of what you could look for to show that it is a high quality keyword, even though it hasn't yet resulted in sales. So I'm just going to clear this. So now it's showing me all keywords regardless of whether or not they've had a sale or not. Another good indicator, I think, would either be the click-through ratio or the number of clicks. So let's just look at the click-through ratio. All right, so I'm just sorting this by the best click-through ratio through the worst. And let's just say it has to have, let's say 3 clicks or more, because, you know, if it's only had 1 click, that could kind of just be an outlier, right? So now, like, what this is showing me, and again, if you have a bunch of sales data, obviously that's the highest quality data and the best way you can figure out which terms you want to use. However, I do understand a lot of people, you know, haven't had many sales yet, and they're like, they still want to extract good search terms from these keyword reports. So this is how I would recommend doing it. So I sorted by the click-through ratio. I removed the search terms that have 3, or let's see, or 1 or 2 clicks. So it's only showing search terms that have had 3 clicks or more. And then I can look through at the click-through ratio, okay? So a higher click ratio is better. So let me actually sort it the other way. A higher click-through ratio is better. So, you know, this particular word, marshmallow roasting sticks, and that should come at no surprise, I would say is a very high quality keyword for me. I would say anything with probably like 0.3% or higher is actually a pretty good word. So if we, sorry, the click-through ratio is right here. So I would say anything, I would say like all of these are actually, you know, if I don't really have much actual sales data to go off of, I would say all of these are actually lower quality keywords for me. And for the most part, that seems right. Wooden skewers, yeah, I might throw that in there just because it seems pretty relevant. But you can see like sterno cans, roasting forks, fire pit screen, kebab maker. That kind of goes to show that, you know, all those aren't very good keywords for my particular product. It makes sense that people aren't buying those. So this is another way, you know, so then I could take all these keywords, if I hadn't had much sales data, and I could do the same thing, right? I put them in a new tab. I would do a little bit of cleaning real quickly to figure out which ones are the good ones or which ones are kind of the bad ones. So, Kevin, what am I forgetting in here?
Well, one of the things that I was just going to add, right, is that you can use the search term report to kind of optimize your title, right? So what do we think of when we look at the click-through rate? What we're really thinking about and what we're really seeing there is that people are seeing our ad. And the higher click-through rate means that every time they see it, more people are clicking it, right? So you want to use the words that have the most clicks and the highest click-through ratio in your title, right? Because the point of your title is to get people onto your product listing. It's to get them to click your product listing and get them one step closer to actually buying your product, right? So I use my search term report. Whichever keywords have the highest number of clicks, right? If it's profitable, whichever keywords have the highest click-through rate, I want to make sure that those are represented first in my title to get people to click onto my product listing.
Yeah, so what we could do there is we could, you know, so we could take all the customer search terms that have a CTR, a click-through ratio of like 2% or more. I can go to a free word frequency counter. I could paste these in here, and then we could see which words out of here would be like the best ones to put in my title. So towards the beginning of my title, I would want to have marshmallow sticks, skewers, bamboo, roasting. Yeah, I would definitely want to make sure that I have like those 5 keywords in my title, and even more specifically than that, towards the beginning of my title. And as you guys can imagine, this isn't that much data yet since it's only been like a week. However, after you've been running these for a few months, you can get some like really high quality data once you've had a ton of clicks, a ton of impressions, a whole bunch of sales to figure out exactly, you know, like what the highest converting keywords are.
So, Greg, why don't you show me, you know, what is an example of one of the best keywords in the campaigns that we created? What is an example of one of the worst keywords in the campaigns that we created? And then what do you do with those keywords? How do you change your campaigns to make them more profitable?
Yeah, great job. Or great question. So of course, you know, the best keywords in there, or I should say, we already went over a little bit about the best keywords, and I'd recommend creating a new ad campaign from those best keywords that we could bid a little bit more aggressively on, or you can do exact match if you haven't done any exact match already. A few other things that we need to be thinking about here is, okay, so of course, like we've had lots of impressions, right? Some sales so far, but we need to optimize these. We haven't done anything as far as optimizing these campaigns yet. Kevin set them up. We've let them run for 8 days. And now we have some data where we can start optimizing these, all right? So I actually like to optimize straight inside of the campaign manager. Okay, some people like to do this in Google Sheets, but I think it's easiest just to do it straight in here. So let me just find all of the new ones that we set up. So these should be them. And just to give you an example, let me find the one that has the highest spend, just so it has the most data. It looks like it's this one. All right. So I'm going to click through on this. I'm going to look at the keywords for this particular ad campaign. I like to sort it by spend. If the columns here aren't the same as what for you aren't showing the same as what I have, you can go in here and you can click on columns and you can make it show different keywords. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to sort by spend, so the highest spends at the top, and then I go through line by line and try to optimize to get close to that 30% ACoS. All right. So marshmallow roasting sticks is the top one. As you can see, I've gotten quite a few sales from this. I've sold 20 units and my ACoS is right at that 30%. So I'm actually just going to leave this one alone from now. The one below it, it's a little bit above. It's 36%. However, I'm actually going to let this one ride out a little bit longer because it is pretty close to the 30%. And the reason that I'm going to do that, I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but getting sales through PPC helps your organic sales. When a listing on Amazon has a higher sales velocity, so it's making more sales, Amazon rewards that listing with higher organic search ranking for relevant keywords. So I'm going to leave this one, the 36% is pretty close to that break-even ACoS for me, so I'm actually going to leave it there. But this next one, the ACoS there is 75%, which is more than twice as much. So this particular one is too costly for me to want to continue paying that much money to make sales, all right? So what I like to do is I like to reduce the keyword bid. Some people go in here and pause it, but like it shows that people are willing to purchase this product after clicking on marshmallow sticks. And this, I know that this is a very relevant keyword to my product. So instead of just pausing this, I would recommend you guys just to reduce the keyword bid, all right? I need the ACoS to be like less than half of what this is. It's not quite as easy as just making your keyword bid half, but that is like a good area that you could start. Okay. So, or you could just try to incrementally like reduce it, maybe, like 25%, 30%, something like this. So for this particular one, let's just go ahead and try to cut this in half and see if I can still get any impressions for it. All right. Since the suggested bid is quite a bit higher than what I have, it's likely that I won't get many impressions. However, at this point, I can't afford this ACoS. It's not a good deal for me anymore, so I'm willing to, reduce it there. So, and then again, I would have to come back in a week or two to see if I'm getting impressions for this or where my ACoS is at from there. This next one, 40%. This is just a little bit higher. So what I'd probably do for this one is I'd probably reduce this to, let's say, $2 even to see if I can still get some sales and some impressions, even though my ACoS is a little bit high. This one, again, this is like the 75%, right? It's about twice as high. So let's reduce that to $1.25 and see if I can still get some impressions and sales. So I would go through line by line and I would do this. So Kevin, how does your optimization strategy differ and what other recommendations would you have?
Well, yeah, no, this is exactly how to do it, right? If you have huge campaigns, sometimes I do like to look in Google Sheets just because you can kind of manipulate the data in a quicker way. But, line by line in this method is really what you're looking for. And I think one of the points that I want to kind of reiterate that Greg talked about was, just because your ACoS is a bit higher than your profit margins does not mean you should necessarily pause it. if the word is very related, right? You know your product best. You know what's related. If we saw something in here like basketball hoop or something completely different and it had a crazy high ACoS, that would be a very obvious choice to pause that, right? But if we saw a word in here, like Greg mentioned, marshmallow sticks, that had, a 75% or 70% ACoS, something that's twice of what we're looking at, then there's really no reason to actually pause that because we've proven that it's actually converting sales. So just like Greg mentioned, I like to cut my keywords, to get the ACoS more where I'm at. But I was going to ask, for people who don't know, what a suggested bid is, what a keyword bid is, what like an ad auction is, kind of how it works. Could you give us like a basic summary of what, kind of how an ad auction works for PPC on Amazon and what a keyword bid is actually like kind of means?
With the Amazon ad platform, it's a CPC or PPC type platform, which means that you get charged when someone clicks on your ad, not when the ad's shown. So it doesn't matter how many impressions my ad has gotten. I only get charged when someone clicks on my ad. Amazon is pretty smart. So some people, I think when they hear that, they're like, oh my gosh, my competitor is going to sit there and click 100 times and I'm going to get charged 100 times. They're smarter than like that. They're smarter than that. You don't have to worry about that happening. So when we bid on a keyword, we're actually bidding on that keyword and match type combo. Let me actually go back to one that's not on Bid Plus just to start off there, to start simple, and then we can go to a Bid Plus. So we'll look at this one. I don't think Kevin set this one up with Bid Plus.
No, there's no Bid Plus on Broad Match.
Oh yeah, this one's broad. Okay. So, all right. So for this particular one, we bid $1 up to $1.56 for skewers sticks with a broad match type. Now, as you can see right here, our cost per click was only 95 cents, right? We didn't get charged this $1.56. So how it works is there's an ad auction on Amazon, and no one knows every exact detail of how any ad auction works on any platform. I think Google's pretty transparent about it, but this is my understanding or my belief of how it works is you bid on a match type keyword combination. At that point, they factor in your product's relevancy. So you may be able to get impressions for a non-relevant keyword if you bid high enough, but you likely won't. So they make sure that your product's relevant for that particular keyword, because at the end of the day, they want to show relevant products to their customers. Right. And the keyword bid is the maximum amount that you're willing to spend. So the reason that we got charged 95% was probably because someone else was bidding like 94 cents or maybe even 90 cents or something. I don't know what increment they go up, but someone else probably was bidding 90 cents. Since we were bidding $1.56, they charged us 95 cents for someone to click on this particular ad that was shown with this keyword match type. Now, it is my belief, Amazon hasn't admitted this, but it is my belief that if you bid the exact same amount for a broad match versus an exact match, Amazon would rather show a customer the exact match term, okay? So, like I said, this hasn't been proven by Amazon, or they haven't admitted this, but this is my belief that I would like to get all my keywords to exact match, because I think with the same bid, or maybe even a little bit of a lower bid, I can get the number one spot for that particular product or for that particular keyword. Does all that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of mention as well is, so we were talking about that previous keyword where you had 70% ACoS, right? We cut our keyword bid in half. And so, some people might be thinking, if you cut your keyword bid in half, if Amazon's suggesting, your bid at $3 and you put it down to $1.50, how could you possibly actually show your ad? And the answer to that is, it's not, there's different times of day that are actually more expensive, right? So people are more likely to buy a product between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. or something like that. Amazon has all this data. So instead of those prime time hours, if you lowered your bid in half, you might actually show like at night or in the middle of the night, and you might be able to get those impressions for much cheaper, which means that keyword bid could in the end be profitable, right? And so one last thing that I wanted to notice, or that I wanted to notate, is the suggested bid is based on Amazon's data, right? So this is kind of a good starting point if you want to, kind of get an idea of what you're going to actually have to pay. And so I tell my students when they're doing product research, to take a look at some of these suggested bids, right? Sometimes we'll actually just create dummy campaigns to see what the suggested bid is, because, people might see, like, for example, supplements, and they might think, wow, this niche might be amazing. But then they see that the cost per click is $5 or $7, right? And so PPC is sucking out all of their profitability. So, the suggested bid has a lot of information directly from Amazon that you want to use to your advantage.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The reason that I jumped over to this particular campaign instead of the last one we were on is the last little note there is when you do have Bid Plus enabled, like we had on this one that we were looking at, what that essentially means is you're giving Amazon permission to actually spend a little bit more, I think up to 50% more than what your actual keyword bid is, if that means that you can be ranked in the #1 spot for that particular keyword. So that's all that. And that's why, like our cost per click right here was actually $2.81, even though our bid was $2.72. That's why I just wanted to start with a different one. Okay.
And that actually leads me to one question. So a question that I get all the time is, Kevin, I'm just not getting any impressions, right? Like I've created these PPC campaigns, but Amazon's not giving me impressions. And if I can't get impressions, how could I possibly get any clicks or sales, right? So what do you do if you set up a campaign and you're just not getting like enough impressions?
There's a few things that you need to be thinking about. One would be like, first of all, are the keywords that you put in there relevant for your particular product? Even if you were to stuff keywords in your backend search term or your description or whatever else that aren't relevant for your product, Amazon takes into account a few different things like what subcategory you're in and like different things to kind of know what type of product you have. So the first thing I would do if I was getting no impressions is I would make sure that the keywords I'm using are relevant. I would make sure the keywords that I'm using are in my title, bullet points, description, or backend search terms. I would make sure that I'm in a good category and subcategory. Something you can do, this is something, a little like trick that not a lot of people know, but let me just show you real quick to see, to tell whether or not you are indexed for a particular keyword. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab for my jungle sticks, I'll go ahead and just click on my sponsored ad. Let me grab the ASIN, so you can grab that out of the URL or scroll down. It's after the DP. And what you can do is you can search for a keyword with your ASIN. And if your product shows up right here, this shows that I am indexed for the keyword bamboo sticks. Now, if I type in here baby towel, all right, instead it says I found 0 results for baby towel with this particular ASIN. So again,
can you tell us what index means, Greg, just for people who don't know?
Yeah, so all this means is essentially that Amazon recognizes that this keyword is relevant for your particular product. So when someone searches for it, they'd be willing to show your product for that particular keyword. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be on the first or second or third page. That just means that like in their system that they recognize that your product is relevant for that keyword. Okay. Right. So my next, if those other things that I already talked about, all those checked out, you're like, I have the keywords in my listing. I'm in a good category and subcategory. It's relevant, et cetera, et cetera. Then some of these things that I'm not getting impressions for, I would check to see if I'm indexed for them. Like I actually might not be indexed for plant support. So I'm not. Okay. So that's a good right there. It's like, so that is why I haven't gotten any, impressions. And that also shows me, I need to go back and put in like plant support and probably orchid stakes in my listing, because this is something that we found out that people actually are purchasing. These are supposed to be sold as bamboo marshmallow stakes, but we later found out that people actually use these bamboo sticks to hold up like little plants and stuff. So I'm not indexed for either of those, which tells me that I need to go back, and I'd probably just like put in my description. I would say like bamboo sticks also make great plant supports. Use them for an orchid stake or this or that or the other thing, and like list some of the other uses for it. So I could be indexed for those, and therefore I would be eligible to get impressions.
Yeah, and one final kind of point I would add is if you're watching this and you're saying, Greg, I know that my keywords are relevant and I'm getting impressions, but I'm just like, I'm not actually getting any clicks. One of the things that I like to do kind of to reinvigorate the number of impressions and number of times your ads being shown to people is you have to actually kind of create new campaigns. Because how Amazon works is if you get, X number of impressions, let's say you get 10,000 impressions, but you don't get any sales, then Amazon is going to deem that campaign non-relevant for the keywords, right? Even if you're sure, right? And sometimes what happens is, let's say you have 100 keywords in your campaign, Amazon will kind of randomly select which of those keywords to show first. And for whatever reason, if it chooses like the 10 keywords that just aren't maybe necessarily the most relevant, and then it shows a bunch of impressions, you get 0 clicks and 0 sales, it will deem the entire campaign non-relevant. And so go through, kind of pick out any that you could possibly think are not, as relevant, right? Maybe you submit 90 or 80 keywords instead of 100. Restart a brand new campaign, right? Where you're going to have impressions, and then you're going to have clicks, and then you're going to have sales, right? Because Amazon will kind of blacklist, so to speak, entire campaigns if it deems them non-relevant from an impressions to clicks to sales ratio.
That's a really good point. I'm glad you said that. And then the last thing, of course, we didn't mention this, but it's probably a given, is if you're still not getting any impressions after all that, then your keyword bids are too low. So you need to increase them. I would just recommend at that point to increase to or maybe even the upper end of the suggested bid values there. All right. One other thing that's important to talk about is, let's go back to the search term report. And I noticed some search terms in here that I was being shown for, specifically for the automatic campaign, that weren't relevant for my product. Okay. Probably the first thing that I would want to do here would be to make sure that I haven't gotten any sales, because I guess there is, a chance that a product or a keyword that's not relevant would get shown, someone would click on it, would make sales. And at that point, like, it'd be kind of okay to keep it. So I'm just going to go to orders placed here, and I'm going to get rid of everything except 0. So I only want it to show me keywords that I've gotten 0 sales. And then I could look through here. Yeah, this is good enough. I could look through here, and I could look for keywords that I think are very irrelevant for my product, that I'm confident would never result in a sale, and I want to totally remove. Okay. So especially in this automatic campaign, I saw Amazon is showing my ad for some weird things like, Boy Scouts. That might work just because Boy Scouts are often associated with campfires or camping, but like dog towels, that's, I'm pretty confident that that is never going to result in a sale for my particular product, and I am wasting some money on it. So at that point, what I would do, I would go to the respective campaign. So right now that's for my automatic campaign. I think that's this one. I would click over here to negative keywords, one of these tabs at the top, and I would insert this. I would recommend under most scenarios just doing negative phrase. Those phrase match and exact match, they'd be just the same as what they are when we're bidding on these keywords, okay? So I put in dog towels, and I'm going to say add these keywords. And now this is telling Amazon that when someone searches dog towels or white dog towels or dog towels large, since it's phrase match, they could add on words before or after it, that Amazon should not show my particular ad. And that way I can make sure that I'm not, that someone wouldn't click on my ad at that point, even though it's like pretty high chance that they're not going to purchase it. So that's one way you could go about doing it. The other way you could do this would be, okay, so we can keep 0 orders placed. And we could just kind of see what we're spending a lot of money on, even though there's 0 orders placed. So like this, for this, or for people clicking through to that, I've spent $55 and gotten 0 orders from it. So wasted quite a bit of money with that. But what you can do is you can look through here and, you can see like, okay, which items have I spent quite a bit of money on, even though I've resulted in 0 sales. This is generally when I use negative keywords, they're for broad match types or automatic campaigns. And the reason for that is sometimes, it's going to be different with every person's product. So it's kind of hard to like generalize this, but generally if you go in and you look at your customer search terms for different products, like some things are going to stick out. A good example of this is like, there's a glass next to me right now. If I'm selling drinking glasses or pint glasses, I might be searching just glass on broad match, and someone might type in eyeglasses, and then my pint glass is being shown for someone who's looking for eyeglasses, and it's pretty likely that they're not going to purchase my pint glass. So at that point, right, I would go into the negative match. I would put phrase for eye or anything, or sunglasses or whatever else I can think of, to make sure Amazon's not showing my product for people looking for eyeglasses.
It's a fantastic point. I mean, you described it perfectly. And one final thing that we're seeing here. So Greg's kind of worst keyword from his automatic campaign is actually an ASIN, right? And so what you actually can do is you can put these into your negative exact matches, and Amazon will basically register that as to not show your product as a related sponsored product in that kind of carousel that Greg did show.
So I can type in that ASIN, add this keyword, and bam, hopefully I won't waste any more money. I don't know what this exact product is, but maybe it's like the exact same product for much cheaper or something. And that's why I just haven't gotten any conversions from it. We could look at it real quick if we wanted. Sometimes hard to know though. Oh crap. Yeah, this is one of my other products. This is my baby towel. And for whatever reason, Amazon thought those were associated. So that was a really good one to add to my negative keywords. Kevin, what other questions do you have at this point, or what did we forget?
So, I mean, that was a pretty good summary, right? What to do if you're not getting impressions, what to do if your ACoS is too high, how to kind of, lower your bids to make your ACoS a little bit lower to get it to a point that you want it to be at, right? That it is okay to have keywords, that have an ACoS that's very similar or even a little bit above your profit margin, just because it's giving you that organic boost for those keywords so that you're actually going to appear in, organic search results, which is in the end, which is the beauty of Amazon FBA, right? Getting those free organic sales and just, leveraging the power of the Amazon customer base.
So really good points. And I will just make one last comment that for this particular product, the CPCs and the ACoS tend to be a little bit lower compared to some of my other ones. So don't be discouraged if the first week that you set this up, your ACoS is like 100% or even more. Because that happens to me a lot with a lot of my products, that PPC for certain product types or niches will be much higher. But don't get discouraged, because there still are going to be profitable words in there for you. You're just going to have to dig through them. You're just going to use all these same methods that we've talked about to dig through them to find the winners and cut the losers. Which reminds me, one last thing that I didn't touch on. I talked about decreasing bids for products where my ACoS was too high. But on the other end of the spectrum, if keywords are performing very well and my ACoS is very low, you may actually even want to think about increasing your bids for those, just to make sure that you're always going to be shown for those in the future, because they are very profitable for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. So if you have a very unique or specific product and you've proven through your PPC campaigns that every single time basically that someone types in this specific phrase that they're buying your product, then you want to make sure that you win every single one of those auctions, right? You want your product to be shown every single time that someone types in that exact phrase, right? So you have to kind of look through your data. If you've proven that most of the time somebody like types in a very specific phrase, they buy your very specific product, then raise your bid, right? Sometimes I'll raise my keyword bid to like crazy high just so I guarantee myself that I'm going to win that auction, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that Amazon's actually going to charge me for that.
Right.
And so with that, I hope you guys did enjoy that video. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely make sure you go over to Greg's channel, right? The Jungle Scout YouTube channel, to check out part 1 where Greg and I set up the initial PPC campaigns, guys. And so I hope you enjoyed that. We will definitely have more collaborations in the future. And thank you so much for joining us, Greg.
Kevin, thank you very much for having me on. And I would recommend for everyone to make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. It's one of my favorite on YouTube. So make sure that you're notified about future videos by subscribing. See you later.
All right, bye guys.